Hi, everyone, and welcome to our panel on ML integrity and the insurance industry. So we all know that insurance companies are leveraging machine learning to increase automated decision-making for a variety of use cases that include things like fraudulent claim detection, pricing optimization, accelerated underwriting. And innovation in AI is obviously leading to better outcomes for businesses and customers alike. But really kind of companies are now balancing risk and AI with innovation. They have to navigate rapidly kind of evolving AI policy landscapes. So in this panel, we'll hear from industry leaders from their experience in developing and managing models that have positive impact while meeting regulatory compliance requirements. So I'm super excited to be joined today by Anju, Oliver, and Roman on our panel. So folks, maybe we'll get started with brief introductions. Anju, could you start us off?
Yeah, no, thank you, Yaron. Thank you very much. Very excited to be here. My name is Anju, and I lead the Data Science and Analytics Department for Northwestern Mutual. And I graduated from Ohio State. I'm a huge Buckeye fan. Football is in the air, so that helps out quite a bit. But anyways, I didn't grow up in the AI world. AI world started when I was probably a decade within my space. And I've quickly learned how to adopt and learn from how the innovations are happening within the industry as well. So looking forward to sharing some of the thoughts as a practitioner today.
Amazing. Awesome. Oliver?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me here. So my name is Oliver. I work for Munich Re, and here in particular, I lead an initiative which is called AI, which will become a Munich Re venture soon. So my academic background is in business engineering, and I have a PhD in economics. So what is AI? AI is a new service that we are building. It offers an end-to-end validation of trustworthiness of AI along 6 dimensions. But apart from this, of course, AI is a very important and of increasing importance topic for Munich Re, and we are applying AI throughout our company, whether for internal processes, but also for building products and services based on AI. Thank you.
Oliver and Roman?
Hi, guys. I'm Roman. I'm the co-founder and chief risk officer of AdBay. My background is more on the finance side. So before starting in insurance, I built an online lending business, or credit, where I looked at kind of decision models as well. And before that, I was an investor. AdBay is an underwriter of cyber insurance for businesses. So we have some very unique challenges and kind of data sources and uses of data and application of various models, machine learning included, and into what we do. I'm very happy to be here and have a conversation.
Amazing. Thanks everyone. So I want to kick us off with just sort of generally talking about risks. So we know that ML models have a lot of benefits, but they also have risks, right? So for every one of you, when you're thinking about your organizations today, where do you identify ML risk the most? Roman, maybe you can start us off since you're the last one.
Yeah, I'm happy to. And I will say, just taking a quick step back, what I worry about is model integrity in general. And when I think about our risk model is all the risk-related decisions that we make as an organization, I want to make sure that they have high integrity. So at the very basic, integrity means that we use the data we thought we're using, we're doing the calculation we thought we're doing, and we're getting outputs in the range that we predicted when we integrated, the model or the tools into it. So machine learning risk is naturally a part of it, and machine learning risk is also a bit more challenging because visibility into how the model works is not always as transparent as in simpler models that are just formulas, or E4 models, if you will, that are still used quite a lot. My view, or AdBay's view, to be honest, is that one needs to be careful with model integrity, and the issue that insurance had in general with decision-making models is that insurance in general, and I'm overgeneralizing, so please excuse me here, we're either operating in there's a human in every decision, so underwriter-led type of model to make decisions, or I call it human out of the loop, where you look at results every 3-6 months and you see what happens, right? And well, the issue with model-driven decision making, and again, machine learning is part of it, but for us, there's a bunch of other things that go into it, is you can't really have those models, right? There's a machine on it, and you can't wait months and maybe tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of decisions to validate that it's working. And I think that's where it's challenging, is how do you make sure that you have, we call it a human on the loop. By the way, I didn't invent this. This is a military thing I read somewhere about how you think about decision making or automatic decision making. But that's where I see the risk. Is like, how do we make sure that we can do that?
Hey, Roman, and I'm just going to add a little bit that human in the loop is so critical. And it was an article that I read last year where they're calling it an exponential underwriter. So it's not an underwriter, but it's an underwriter with a human in the loop with the model. So they're not underwriters anymore. They're exponential underwriters because their capability has been advanced given the outcomes from the model.
Yeah, we call it portfolio manager, but same concept.
Yes.
But it sounds like that is a big challenge of like, how do you deal with scale, but at the same time, when you need a human in the loop, like how do you still like incorporate that, like, to sort of like enable that? Sorry, Oliver, I was cutting you off. Like, go ahead.
Yeah, when we talk about ML risk, of course, we also need to talk about bias in data, which is a big issue in insurance industry. But of course, insurance business is based on some positive discrimination. So we need to discriminate. That is part of our business. Otherwise, we will not come up with fair premiums. And this is, I think, it's a thin line, whether what is necessary in terms of doing insurance and take the risk on your balance sheet, and where do you cross the line, and where it's maybe where you run the risk of taking on ML risk in addition to this. And when I look at our business, so I work for Munich Re, which is a reinsurer. We do not have this homogeneous mass business. So the ML application that we have is rather much more customized. So where do we apply it? We apply it, for example, we have some applications around accounting where we do automated transaction business. We also start with information extraction and underwriting and claims. And of course, there we have more of a business risk, because if the data that we extract is not correct, this will lead to financial downside from Munich Re. And we also start with implementing ML into our pricing efforts. When I think about the ML risk, then in particular, I do not worry so much about our models and stuff like this. It's more about the data. And the crucial question is do we have sufficient data? Is it representative for the use case? And is it probably cleansed by the data scientist? I think these are the most serious issues that I see in our application, how we do it. So if ML does not work, a customer has any pain from a reinsurance perspective. For primary insurance, sure, this is completely different, because there you often apply AI in customer-facing operations.
Yeah, if I can add some things from Northwestern Mutual perspective, which is, we have homogeneous mass business that we work with, and being able to deploy models at a large scale in my agriculture industry or the, car rental industry where I was before, we focused heavily on ensuring that we have model monitoring platforms that assesses model drift and data drift as it comes. So that is the lens that we are applying at Northwestern Mutual as well, that ensuring that there's a new role that we created, which we call analytical engineers. So these are the folks who are that's a new job description, that those are the folks who are working on looking at the data and ensuring that data is, because it's big data at the end of the day, and it's ready and it's cleansed for data scientists to function within. And then everything I run with a platform perspective. So everything is on a platform so that we have the lineage and the monitoring of those, because integrity, as Roman said, is extremely critical. So those are there. And then we do have bias testing that we, as an insurance industry, we absolutely got to do, because your model is as good as the data it's trained on. And if we are not cognizant, it will start to predict something else, it has never been trained on. So it's a fine balance that we constantly have to maneuver as we go into deploying our models into production.
No, that makes a lot of sense. It sounds like there is a lot of kind of like emphasis on data, as both you and Oliver said. So Oliver, I wanna go back to related to some of the things that you said. So you say that as a reinsurer you care a lot about the data, but when I think about Cert AI's mission, a lot of it is about offering kind of like objective validation of trustworthy AI systems, right? So I'm wondering, how does this help instill integrity into your customers' systems, right? And I guess maybe you can talk a little bit about some of the key learnings along the way.
Yeah, happy to do so. So first of all, what is Cert AI, and what is the pain point that we aim to solve with Cert AI? So imagine that you want to use ML models and you need to convince someone else that the AI that you use can be trusted. This could be your management, this could be your customer, this could be your regulator, this could be anyone else who's interested in the way how you apply AI. And we came to the conclusion that only an independent third-party assessment can really solve this challenge in a sustainable way, because we believe that we have to stand by that you can't check your own homework. Of course, you have to apply and integrate all the measures for ML integrity, but you can't say that what we do is perfect. You can only set the base to do so, but then it's much more convincing if someone else is a neutral third party confirms that what you do is compliant with quality standard for AI. Let's put it like this. And what we do is Cert AI offers an end-to-end validation of trustworthiness of AI along 6 dimensions, and these 6 dimensions are quite common. It's robustness, it's privacy, it's fairness, and so on. And at the end, we provide or we equip our customers with a quality seal with whom they can prove to anyone else that what they developed is compliant to our own standard. So this is what we do, and what we believe, could be a breakthrough, or could be a big support in scaling AI, because we have lots of data, we have a lot of computer power, but what is the third pillar must be the trust into the decision that is taken by the machine learning algorithm. What are key learnings along our way of Cert AI? And there I would say there are 3 major key learnings that I would say. It's all about trust, and we would probably not be able to do this without the trust in our brand of Munich Re, which is in the insurance space, at least it's a very trusted brand, and which is very supportive to our endeavor. And secondly is, at the beginning we were a little bit unsure, has Munich Re a right to play in the field of AI certification or AI validation? And yes, it has, was also our finding. No one was doubting about this because, yeah, if you compare a certification process and a risk assessment process in underwriting, it's not that different. It's a structured methodology of looking at risks that are associated to AI, and at the end you come up with a risk score. And in the one scenario, you add an insurance policy to it, and you take the risk. In others, in the second scenario that we target with Cert AI, you issue a quality seal. And the last thing is that when it comes to the market of AI certification, and there I have much more experience in the European market than in the US market, then I consider this market as still very premature. So it's very much driven, and I think we will probably discuss this later, by regulation, and AI is not yet considered as a competitive edge. And there, this is, I think, the strategy and the vision going forward, that AI should be used as something that makes you better, than differentiates you from your competitors.
That makes a lot of sense. So so still somehow like there's a there's maybe like not enough buy-in in the in Europe when it comes to AI. This sounds like.
Pardon?
It sounds like there's still sort of we still like kind of an important condition is for people to sort of see the advantages in AI right before kind of adopting it.
Exactly. So there's a huge chunk of the market who's waiting for the ultimate results of the European AI Act, which is basically the framework of how we want to apply AI in Europe.
Right. Well, I mean, fortunately for us, like we all see kind of the advantages and power of AI. So Roman, like I want to ask you about regulatory bodies and kind of like in thinking about how that informs developing kind of the development process. So, when we're thinking about like kind of bodies like the National Association of Insurance Commissioners, right? We have like all these sort of like legislation. So how does one factor that in when kind of like into the entire kind of model development process, especially in kind of in your line of business when you're dealing, I think, with like very complex, right? Like when you're doing kind of underwriting for kind of like I think like very kind of complex business.
Yeah. So let me tackle this by maybe talking a bit about what is it that we do and then how this applies. Okay. So what we do is we underwrite cyber insurance, which is probably, I would argue, the most fun part of commercial insurance these days, at least the most interesting. And what we're doing is we're integrating quite a few, both traditional and non-traditional data sources into the decision-making process. So if you think about my challenges, they are more about data drift than they are about model drift, if you will. Data sources tend to be security, or IT data sources have a bunch of issues. Part of them is like reliability and accuracy. And we are working in a world where even if you look at one data source, 3 months ago, it could be telling you something completely different just from how the data behaves, So our challenges is on the input side, if you will, and then making sure that we calibrate that and that the models output a consistent view of the risk, which is also quite dynamic. So it is quite interesting. Now, where we do use ML, and I think that's pretty important, is typically less on this dynamic data that has to do with IT and more on firmographic information. So things like how big the company is, what industry they're in, a lot of classification questions, and then data extraction, like Oliver mentioned, and data extraction is significant for us. Now, because we operate in cyber insurance, and cyber is mostly an E&S product or excess and surplus, meaning there is less regulatory scrutiny just because this line hasn't been really standardized. It's also a commercial product that we're active in. We don't actually see a lot of regulation, pushing us in our model process or model building process. What we find is that we're leading the charge, so we're explaining to the industry and to regulators about what makes a good model and how you think about it. And at the end of the day, the main driver for us is the accuracy of the results and the performance of the book, right? So, and that's another very important point that I want to make is that the way we think about integrity goes beyond just like model integrity and goes into performance. So we think that because in our space, at least, because it's very difficult to put a number specifically on inputs and outputs, we want to make sure that we look at business metrics in addition to model specific metrics in how things perform. That has been the guiding, the North Star, if you will, of how we thought about model development and integrity.
Anju, for you guys, you probably also were kind of very close with kind of guidelines from regulatory bodies. So how do you think about this? So how do you think about this at Northwestern Mutual?
No. In my past life, having worked with lawyers very closely for model development, I've definitely used the same script here as well, where we work with our lawyers and privacy partners and government affairs as well, very early in the process. So we define all of our models into either discovery, so unconstrained, so discovery or pre-production or production. And then we have a small review committee, which actually looks at, so Roman mentioned the traditional, untraditional, non-traditional data sources. So we go feature by feature and ensure that we have buy-in from the privacy and legal teams for approval for any of the features that may deem sensitive before we put it in the model. And we definitely post that we look for the prediction accuracy or business justification for each one of those features. So that's one path to ensure that we are staying within the bounds and our models are staying within the bounds. Then drift, and both model drift and data drift is closely monitored. But we also work with our government affairs team to help shape the current environment within the insurance industry as well, because I do feel like, having come from another industry, I do feel like there's progress that we need to make around here and help shape that. Some of the things that we have seen, especially CERT AI, or there's plenty of law firms out there that are doing that, what we call Fairness 360 AI assessment of what the models that you're building, which is a need for the future, absolutely. So how do we learn together and establish such that the models that we are building and models that we are deploying has, our clients' trust to be able to become the singular source of truth?
So Anju, I know that also. So it sounds like there's a lot of work that you guys are doing to manage that risk, right? With legal and regulatory bodies. But I know at the same time, right, that the CEO of Northwestern Mutual has said that basically advise business leaders to embrace the AI change, right? Saying that basically AI drives growth because it's faster, more effective, right? Leads to better outcomes. So I guess kind of in your role, how do you on the one hand, balance between, risk in the way that you said, but also kind of push forward and drive innovation?
No, great question. We work with John Schlifsky. So John Schlifsky definitely drives the agenda for AI, but he is fully cognizant of the risk that brings it as well. So we as a team collectively provide, it sits at the enterprise risk exec committee team. So that's where all of our models go in. So it is looked at the board level. We have these discussions at the board level and at the exec team as well to ensure that we are operating within the bounds of government bodies and also understanding the risk, because that is one thing that we have that works in I've been with the company for only 2 years, but the trust that we have with our clients is significant. And we ensure that the trust of any systems that we are building stays the same. So transparency of what we do, explainability of models is something that is extremely critical to how we are deploying models. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess kind of when we're thinking about following up on on risk, when we're thinking about Oliver, I'm curious, like, so when we're thinking about this from from a consumer or customer perspective, right? So I think with missions for Cert AI is you basically test and validate and certify, right, the AI models. But when we're thinking about, like, how should organizations think about prevention, right? So how do they prevent unethical use or bias or unethical use of AI in in these industries?
Yeah, maybe let me answer this question from how we reacted when the first draft of the European AI Act came up. So of course, it was totally unclear what kind of regulation do we have to expect in Europe. And the first thing was we asked ourselves, what will the impact of the European AI Act be on us? And just to frame this, the European AI Act basically is based on a risk-based approach, classifying AI systems from from forbidden to over high risk to limited risk to low risk. And of course, they try at the beginning, they mapped whole industries to these kind of clusters. So, and if insurance, for example, would be classified as high risk, all AI applications in insurance might be considered as high risk, whether it's just optimizing your scheduling, whether it is really pricing with very personal data. And this was very much confusing to us. And the second question that we then asked, who might be interested into how we use AI? And there, I already did the statement at the beginning. It's not going forward. It will not only be the regulator. We already have the first requests from auditors, and soon there will be rating agencies asking for this. So the audience of how we do this will be much broader. So what did we do there? And when it comes to consumer and customers, and here I put myself more into the shoes of our customers, of Munich Re customers, instead of ourselves, because we have a pure B2B business, and there it's much more relaxed than it in a B2C business. I think what is very, very, very important is that you equip your data scientists with the means and with the necessary sensitivity that this is an issue. Yeah, and then they have to take this into consideration when developing new AI algorithms.
So organizationally though, like how does one do that? Like how does one actually equip the data scientists to be cognizant of the risk? Because like what we're hearing here, right? Like a lot of like for a lot in most cases, right? Like our goals of data science is to make models more performant, right? And now kind of like we're also asking them to be cognizant of these other risk factors. Are there kind of like things that we can do organizationally that work?
So when we started our data science or data analytics journey, we had to train people, and in the meantime, we have more than 400 trained data scientists at Munich Re, and they are not all data scientists by education, and they run through a training program, and we do this together either with universities, with experts, and so on. And within this data program, they are trained about basics of trustworthy AI. The second thing is that each of our data scientists who develops trustworthy AI, he has to go through an e-learning program or e-learning training about basic principles on trustworthy AI. And thirdly, Munich Re drafted an AI guideline, which is also public and which can be found on our website. So we commit ourselves externally that we comply with certain rules that we use AI only in a human-centric way. So we have very concrete means established. However, on a day-to-day basis, we do not have a central test team or something like this. But we have a very decentralized organization, and we leave the responsibility with the data scientists.
Yeah, and if I can add,
yeah, super curious. Yeah, super curious to hear. This is like I love hearing about the like having like this like a training program like this. I'm curious whether it's universal. So Anju, I'd love to hear your take.
Yeah, if I can add a little bit to that. So yes, we do have guardrails within which we deploy our models. It has to pass the model risk management framework and the model risk management governance team. Only then, and EREC as well, only then the model gets deployed into production. So those guardrails, as the audience is building their own models, they have to keep that into account, put those guardrails in place, ensure that there is a model risk management policy out there or the framework that you're abiding by. Totally agree with Oliver. On to the AI basics and education. We do have an independent validation team, which is also responsible for bias testing, more like the red team. But I cannot stress enough on ensuring that AI ethics, trust, and education is so critical. It's different than having the model integrity. We can put all the tech in place to get the integrity, but unless we have our larger, employee population with us understanding why the trust, ethics, and just ensuring the integrity of who we are, right? The AI bias. So we do a broad training and ensure that, and it goes up to the board level as well, where we help them understand how we are thinking about this going forward.
Yeah. I just wanted to add, this conversation reminds me a lot of how cybersecurity is regulated across the board for financial services as well. And I think it's a few years ahead of this topic, so I can maybe give you a glimpse of how it feels like, if you will. And there's a strong component of compliance. So you get asked questions, you need to do training, you need to demonstrate that the organization has been, for example, phishing training is something that everyone does these days. And it has been elevated, cybersecurity as an issue has been elevated to a board conversation, which is also a very important way to ensure that organizations take this seriously and that they make decisions that have to do with cybersecurity very consciously at a high level, right? So all that has been happening. But what we find in cybersecurity is that you still get breaches. Even companies who invest a lot in the compliance side still get breached, and so the compliance itself is just not good enough. And it's a bit, Anju, like you're saying, it's not just the integrity, it's also the outcomes, if you will, right? And in the world of cybersecurity, what's been going on is that there are now a few regulators that make reporting a cyber incident mandatory. New York Department of Financial Services is one such common, our famous place. And that is forcing companies to really look at outcomes. So how do I make sure that I don't get breached, right? Because we now know, and I think Equifax, which was a breach last year, was the first time that the CEO got fired because of a cyber breach. And I think that those things will happen here as well if the regulators come back and say, well, your systems are biased and we see it and you have not done enough. So I think it's an ongoing process. On cybersecurity, for example, it's about spending more time and more resources on actually making sure that what you do works, right? And I think it's going to be the same thing with AI as well.
Roman, I couldn't agree more. And like from what I'm hearing from you, like it sounds like we want to say that there is we want to distinguish between running kind of well thought out processes, right, for sake of compliance, which we must do, right? And then, but in addition to that, really, what we want to do is we want to make sure that we're actually preventing, right, risk, right, from AI models, from data. And I couldn't agree more. The only thing I just want to emphasize is that when we're thinking about, ML integrity, we're thinking about that, we're thinking about something that is actionable. We're thinking about something that is, not only for, compliance, right, but also like how do we actively, make sure that model, that we have integrity in the model outputs, right? And I also want to echo kind of like your thinking, and I very much agree that or I very much see the parallels between, I think, kind of the cybersecurity and ML integrity, right? And I sort of think of, kind of like the cyber, the internet, right, bring kind of like the, the precursor, right? And then, but when that comes up, we introduce risks, right? And then we have a need for cybersecurity, right? And I think AI and ML is the same, right? We're introducing like this new technology that is as transformational, I argue, as the internet, right? Yeah. And now with this technology, there are new sets of risks, new technical challenges, and we need, and similar that we need cybersecurity, we need kind of like what we think of like as ML integrity.
Yeah, I would just add to that. We like to say that we've been focusing on productivity in IT for the last 30 years. And we've introduced a lot of challenges. We're basically having companies be the QA, hackers be the QA, and companies be the targets of that. That result in very painful breaches. The good news is that I think that we are a lot more thoughtful about integrity in machine learning than we were when we introduced the internet or remote networking or even Microsoft Word and Excel that have still a lot of open doors to them. So this is the good news of this, probably.
I think you need to listen in on the security panel, and maybe you'll be convinced otherwise. But I think I mean definitely it's great that we're all here. There's a lot of work to be done. Okay, but like so let's just like just for final thoughts, let's just talk a little bit more about business risk, and let's think about so. We understand that like there's also a huge business risk with with integrity, right? When model outputs fail, even if it's even not because of bias or fairness reasons, right? Just because of various like operational issues that happen, then the business experiences a lot of risk, and in insurance, there's a lot of money at stake, right? So what can organizations do to basically to be more confident about model outputs?
Yeah, I can start out on this one. Well, there's multiple things as you're deploying, and I have learned quite a bit on being able to deploy large scale models is very simple things which you assume that it's there. It's having a robust reporting and analytical systems of the model outputs is extremely critical. It's as simple as it sounds, but it is a must to have so that you have a clear path of understanding how your model is modifying or projecting in the live environment, right? And then I also feel like scalability of the AI is real. It's here, it's real. And it's very critical for us as the data scientists within this group here to ensure that we are bringing the convergence very early on with our law team, privacy team, and all the other verticals that is equally responsible for ensuring the success of that. So business risk comes from multiple places. First and foremost is your model can go haywire and you're not monitoring it. Or you deployed a really good model, but the change management is so high that it's not getting adopted. So we need to navigate through both of those to ensure that I always feel like data science comes at a risk of heavy change management, right? So change management is another lever that you continuously need to monitor as you are putting your products into production.
That makes a lot of sense. Roman, like, are the things that I know you guys have a world-class team of data scientists and machine learning engineers at Abbey. Like, what are the things that you guys are doing to confidently rely on the model outputs?
Yeah, I have to echo Anju here. There is the model integrity that is, we find more and more that it's not a data science question. It's more of an analytics and business question. Again, because there's, at some point, because we have so much change in how cyber risk evolves and the models become complex, you need to have a business sense to it. You need to get it back to basics in a sense. So we have quite extensive analytics, but we look at it from a business metrics as well, like what happened to our hit ratios or loss ratios by segment. What did we do? How does that connect to model deployment? So that's one part. But and I can't stress change management enough. Okay, it is what I found in my journey in insurance is that if you are more accurate and smarter, because you have better data or better models, it's not necessarily a good thing. So my view of change management here is that you want, you guys familiar with Benihana, the restaurant chain? So
Yes.
we want the Benihana experience, right? So we want folks to feel that they're getting something really cool, while the data and their day-to-day looks very benign. You know, you in the Benihana experience, you would feel you're eating exotic food, but you eventually eat rice and chicken and maybe some shrimp, right? So that's the mindset. We try to bring models to questions that our underwriters, for example, know that they can rely on the machine, like classification, and we try to do it in the background so that their day-to-day is not as affected, and they feel that they are very successful because of the models. Because again, I fully agree, change management has been pretty painful, especially when there's a machine and you don't know exactly how it works and you need to trust it, and your job is to not trust stuff, at least on the underwriting side. So I would echo that. That's kind of how we think about it.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And Oliver, like I know that I know that you guys, like as you're doing this, you have like partnerships like with kind of like innovation hubs. I know you have kind of partnerships with also with universities. So I think that for you guys, you're also like actively thinking about models and ways that you can develop kind of like performant models.
Exactly. The thing with the business risk is that often in any kind of organization, that the ultimate decision takers, whether we do something or not, the managers are not very well informed about AI, about artificial intelligence, and about the risk that is associated with. So we need to provide them with the necessary trust that they can rely on these systems, and even more as if we look also at Munich, we don't necessarily develop all our AI applications ourselves, so they are often provided by third party. It's not only that we have to trust our own organization, but that we also have to trust our service providers, which makes it an even more complex topic. And I think one thing which goes from my view into the wrong direction is we believe AI is a technical system, and whenever we apply a technical system, it must be fault-free. And this is not the case when it comes to AI. AI is just outperforming typical average human behavior. And I think as long as this is not the benchmark of what we have in our head when taking a decision, it will be a tough cookie for artificial intelligence. What is of course, tools like you provide from robust intelligence, a consistency in monitoring tools, a consistency in having an overview of deployed tools, of a consistent approach and risk management of these tools is definitely something which is very helpful.
Go ahead, Paul. Thanks, Oliver. No, we're of course like this is why we're all here. Folks, I want to thank everyone for just a great panel, great discussion. Looking forward to catching up with all of you separately. Thanks again for taking part in this.